You know, last year, when I was told I'd be inducted today, I was really pleased and quite surprised, thanks to Lee Eisenhower. But then I got home and I got talking to my son Mark, and I says, man, I was thinking about it. Billy Boyer, Jimmy Moore, Ty Stoplett, Dick Brubaker, Darrell Day, and some guy named Kevin Hurley. And last year, Peter Finn, this year, Sepulveda and Underwood. I said, man, all those great players. And then I said, geez, and the commissioners, some 10 years, some 20 years, some of them probably close to 30. And they work so hard to keep this to be a great tournament. And then your officers and officials, starting with Carol Forbes, Milt Stark, and Hackmeister, and all the other ones that work just as hard to keep this to be a great tournament. And here I am in with those guys. I feel pretty damned unworthy. And Mark said, Dad, I wouldn't feel that way. Everybody knows you're one of the good ball players, those guys. But I'll bet anything you could out-talk any one of them. But, you know, even today, I don't really know if that was a compliment or not, you know. But then I thought about how old I am and how much softball I've seen and the changes. And I'm not against change, and I know change is inevitable. And then my thoughts went back to 1933. I was 8 years old. My folks moved into a house smack dab next to the fast pitch diamond in Plymouth, Michigan, the suburb area of Detroit. And nice travel league. And boy, I was 8, I went to every game. I thought, man, this is great. And the thing is, I'm old enough to remember figure eighters. So is he. But every pitcher in that league threw figure eight. You turn around and look at second, and then you wheel around and let it go. Well, by the time I was in my teens, there were windmillers and slingshotters. And maybe that was the first big change, because they threw so doggone much harder. And then, about the middle of the century, near 1950, some guy in authority said, man, these guys throw pretty hard. Maybe we better think about putting the pitcher's mound back. So that's the next change. They moved the pitcher's mound back 3 feet. And you know, I think the next change might have been an aluminum bat. You know, I was a pretty dang good hitter if I could get a real light wood bat. But the only thing was, the dang thing would break awful soon because it was so light. Then I'd be a month, and I wouldn't be such a good hitter for a month. But with the advent of the aluminum bat, banjo hitters like me could get a real light bat, and it wouldn't break. That caused some of these good pitchers some more problems. And I think maybe the next big change was that polycore ball, or whatever that ball they use today. We held the World Tournament in Saginaw, 1981. We had over 90 games. There were 13 home runs hit. Last year, when we left Eau Claire at early on a Friday morning, there had been around 150 hit. Now that's kind of a big change. But the biggest change of all is in the number of fast-pitch men's teams. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I would guess that we're lucky if we got 5% as many teams as there were in the heyday of softball. So what a testament and tribute to these commissioners and officials who still keep this to be a great tournament with that many fewer teams. You know, and there was one change I kind of had a little trouble with. When I held a world tournament in 1981, I'd hear people say, who's that skinny kid always hanging around the Saginaw Boulder dugout? They'd say, oh, that's just our Gillis' kid. last year in Eau Claire, I heard this guy say, "Who's that old geezer that likes to talk a lot?" And the guy said, "You know, I'm not sure, but I think that might be Doug Gillis' dad." So that's change. Took me a while to get used to. You know, I really like the oil tournament. And Saginaw, I live alone. And I know what the people think when I get out. Oh, here comes Art Gillis. Conversation's going to get around the fast pitch softball. So I got to watch it. And I've worked real hard on 3 or 4 other subtopics that I can bore them to death with, and I don't have to talk about fast pitch to them. But when I get to the World Tournament, I can talk fast pitch, I can critique it, I can watch it, and it's like going on a vacation. Yeah, I really like it. Another reason I like the World Tournament, when I was a kid, man, I hated my goodbyes. The neighbors my relatives would visit a few days, and they'd start to pack up to go, and I'd get tears in my eyes. They'd drive out of the driveway, and I'd be bawling. I hated my goodbyes. And then when I grew up, I still hated them. But, you know, at the World Tournament, I don't mind them, because I know a lot of people, but I know if I'm around next year, and they're around next year, I'll see them at the tournament. You know, I memorized this speech, at least I tried to, but I almost forgot something. What did I get out of 63 years of fiddling with softball? That's what my wife was here, she'd say, fiddling with softball. But I guess I got to meet a lot of good friends, make some great acquaintances, meet some really fine people occasionally, and get to witness some great competitors over the years. You know, I'm 81, and I don't hear quite as good as I used to, but I hear it a lot better than my son thinks I do. Because I heard him talking to one of his friends in Detroit, you know, and he said, "Boy, my dad's going in the Hall of Fame." And the guy said, "Man, what do you think you'll talk about his induction? Maybe talk about his playing career, huh? Or maybe you'll talk about his sponsoring. Or maybe you'll talk about his promotions. What do you think?" My son said, "I don't care what he talks about. I just don't know how they're going to shut him up." So remembering that conversation, and not wanting Royce to get up here, tap me on the shoulder and let me know I've been here too long, I think it's time for me to conclude. But before I leave, I want to say thank you to anybody and everybody that had anything to do with me getting up here to receive this great honor. Thank you all very, very much.